Hi everyone, my name is Bazikyan and I'm a wills and trusts attorney here in Los Angeles. And this month I wanted to talk about a topic that is important to me, and that is guardianship nominations for minor children, meaning if you have children under the age of 18, what legal document you need to have in place to make sure that if something happens to you, they're taken care of. So let's take a step back and examine the law in this area first. If you have a child that's under the age of 18, legally they're considered minors, which means that they will need a guardian appointed if you pass away or you are temporarily incapacitated. So when we talk about the unexpected scenarios, we're talking about two scenarios. The first is if something were to happen to the parents, and the second, meaning they pass away, and the second is if they haven't passed away, but they're mentally and physically incapable of taking care of themselves. They're incapacitated. So in both these scenarios, there would need to be a guardianship appointed for your child. And so the right way of doing it, or the pre-planned way of doing it, is to put together a plan of action ahead of time, ahead of these terrible things happening in your life, and you be the one that selects who is going to be the guardian of your child. The great thing about a guardianship nomination is that you sit down with an attorney and you go through a series of conversations and you select who you would like to become the guardian for your child should you pass away or become incapacitated. And that person will take over for you, and they will be in charge of your little human being as far as things that are relevant to their life, like their well-being, what they eat, what time they sleep, whether they go to that birthday party or not, what school they attend. So all of these day-to-day decisions are going to be the decisions that are made by the guardian of your child. The person that you appoint as guardian might also be the person that is appointed to take care of the finances for the child, but they don't necessarily have to be the same human being. Because as we all know, people think differently. So you might have one person that would be a great candidate to take care of your kid on a day-to-day basis, giving them a bath, feeding them great food, doing all of that, but they're not very financially savvy. You might have somebody else that's in charge of the finances for the child. So, these are all discussions that you should have and thoughts that you should have as far as what's going to happen if you're not around. And there's several other factors that you need to explore. So a lot of times, parents that are sitting in my office have a tough time selecting the guardian because they're envisioning that whatever happens a long ways down the road. And so they automatically eliminate people in their minds who would have otherwise been great candidates. And I'm talking about grandparents. So for example, they think, well, my mom's going to pass away before me. Why would I name my mother to be the guardian of my child? So what I want you to do is, one thing that I advise my clients to do is think in terms of the next 5 to 7 years. Don't think in the long run. I want you to think actually even lower, even in terms of like 3 to 5 years. So think very immediate future. So if your parents, even though they're elderly, are going to be the best candidates to provide day-to-day care for your child over someone else that is not ready to be a parent, go ahead and pick them. And if your parents are not around, hopefully you've selected alternates. And that's my second advice, is to make sure that you actually put a list of people, not just 1 or 2 people that you name. That you name your primary choice, and then you have a secondary and a third and a fourth. Heck, if you have 10 people, I will put all 10 people in documents for you. As many people as you have is better than letting a court decide who gets to be the guardian of your child. So always think in short-term future. Make sure that you're listing alternates, and then consider other factors in the individual that you're selecting. So if your sister is going to be the best choice to take care of your child, but she lives all the way in New York, that should be a consideration for you. You need to think in terms of geography. Is your child going to be uprooted and moved to New York? Is your sister going to move to California? So these are all things to consider. Sometimes you have no other family but that sister, so the child has to be uprooted and relocated to New York in a new environment with new surroundings. But sometimes during that discussion, you might say, well, no, actually, my other sister that lives in California may be a better option, because that means my kid will remain in the same school, be surrounded by the same people, their surroundings won't change. And these are important factors to consider, especially for the child, practically speaking, because if that child's world is going to be turned upside down, we don't want to make these drastic environmental changes, as well as the schools and whatnot. So we want to make this transition as easy for the kid as possible. So these are all other factors that you should be considering when selecting a guardian that you may or may not have thought about previously. So geography is pretty important. Religion is another important factor. So if you are of one type of religion and the person that you're selecting is of a different type of religion, that's a huge factor to consider. Are they going to raise your child within that religion or yours? So these are all the things that you should consider. You want to basically pick somebody who is as much like you as possible in their child rearing abilities and skills. You're essentially replacing yourself with another human being in your life that would parent your child as close to the way you would have done it as possible. So geography, religion, their overall take on medical procedures. For example, if you give your kids a vaccine, but your guardian is a no vaccine type of person, that's something to consider. So these are all different factors that we actually discuss with our clients. So during our meetings with our clients, we'll sit there and we'll discuss all these different factors that are important to them. And then we'll come up with a list of people that are put in different order and as far as how they're going to take charge. And then hopefully that puts the parent's mind at ease, knowing that they've pre-selected who they want their guardians to be, and it's their wishes that are going to be honored by the court versus the court deciding arbitrarily based on whoever makes that petition. And then my other piece of advice for you is, if you do have a guardianship nomination in place, what I do for myself and what you should do is leave that paperwork laying around. Make a copy of it. If you're going on date night, if you're going on a vacation without your children, leave it somewhere that's accessible for your babysitter or whoever's taking care of your child. In any case, there should be a temporary guardian nominated and a permanent guardian oftentimes. So basically, the temporary guardian would step in and take charge of your children immediately if there's an emergency, until the permanent guardian can step in and take the kids physically to wherever the permanent guardian is. So very basic example. If you're on, let's say David goes on date night with his wife Sally, and they're in a tragic car accident and they both pass away, that guardianship nomination form that I asked them to leave around the house for the babysitter, that's going to help out tremendously, because when the police show up, that document is going to tell them who they can actually give the child to legally for the temporary time being, until that permanent guardian steps in. Now, sometimes the temporary and the permanent guardian are the same people because they're geographically close to the child. But for a lot of people, it might be different humans. It might be a neighbor that's the temporary guardian who could just step in and do whatever needs to be done immediately to prevent the child from being taken into the Child Protective Service care until a permanent guardian is reached. Or it could be the same person. So in that scenario, that document will help a great deal, because it'll direct the police to be able to actually do what's right for the child at that moment, and to do whatever it is in the best interest of the child according to the parents' wish. And then later on, things could be sorted out with a permanent guardian taking charge of the child. So it's a document that I really do recommend my clients kind of just have around the house for their babysitters and their caregivers to utilize if there's an emergency. And just a simple other example that might come into play. Everything might be fine with you. You might be on vacation, but your kid is sick. And so your caregiver takes the kid to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Who are you? Why did you bring my patient in? Where's the parent? I need a parental consent to do X, Y, and Z." At the very least, there's going to be a legal document in place that says, yes, this person is in charge if I'm incapacitated or if I'm temporarily unavailable. So it'll help in those scenarios as well. So I really do recommend that if you're a parent of a child under the age of 18, that you really do sit down with our office and actually coordinate a plan of action for the guardianship to make sure that your child will be taken care of in case the unexpected happens to you. So I encourage you to sit down with me. We have free consultations. Come on by the office, and I'd be happy to have this discussion with you in person and personal to your specific needs. Have a great one. Bye.